YouTube, how's it going? We're back. In today's video, I have a 2018 NFL Draft team regrades video, and basically I'm going to go through, look at my original grades when I made just after the NFL Draft ended, and we're going to look at the original grades, and I'm going to regrade them. I'm also going to re-rank them. We're going to go from worst to first based off my regrade, so team by team here, worst to first. Should be a lot of fun. A couple things to keep in mind. It's not a player grades video. It's not just based off the first year. That's not an end result. But that plays a part in it. It plays a part in determining the potential of those players. It's kind of grading the value of the picks, kind of grading what the team had to work with. I can't give an advantage to a team that had more picks or multiple first-round picks. Some teams didn't have that to work with. So that's how I kind of grade this. A lot goes into it. We did a first round regrade if you haven't seen that, and then we did a rookie grade based off their play in the 2018 season. So two different videos, and we have a third different one here. So yeah, right before we get into it, follow our Twitter, frogs_angels, link in the description. We talk about the draft on there. The upcoming draft. We talk live during games, lots of good stuff. So please check us out on Twitter. And we now have Frogs Angels merch as requested. The link in the description. So check all that out. Be much appreciated. But let's get on to this first, really the worst one, I thought. And it was the New Orleans Saints. Original grade, I gave them a C. And now I'm giving them a C-. So dropping them down a little bit. Marcus Davenport in the first round. He looked very promising, great pass rusher, kind of known as a raw guy too, which means it's going to take some time for him to get going, and he was really getting going despite the injury. But the thing I didn't love about that pick is they traded the current first rounder to move up and a future one to the Green Bay Packers. And the Saints are a team, they're in win now mode, so I understand trading that stuff, but again, you're going to need some future in the near future, if that makes sense. So I don't really agree with giving up your next year first rounder for a guy like that, even though he was very good. Tre'Quan Smith in round 3 was an excellent pick. Love that pick. Turned out real well. Other than that, I don't really like, and at the time I didn't really like any of the other picks. Cameron Moore is not even on the team right now. Boston Scott, really what's keeping this from being lower is Tre'Quan Smith looks like an absolute steal in round 3. Looks like a great pick. Davenport's a great player. Don't love the trading. Obviously, I already said that. So really nothing going for this draft. Not a lot of guys that I think will stick on the team for a long time. Honestly, Tre'Quan Smith again in round 3 is keeping it from going down past a C-. So next on the list is going to be the Jets. I gave them a C. And the original grade was a B+. So actually quite the drop down there, honestly. It's not a terrible draft, but it's just not a lot of things that stand out. Sam Darnold, 3rd overall pick. People are going to get mad at me because Sam Darnold looked pretty good and he's got a lot of potential. I still think 3 was early, and people will say Darnold could have went 1. He could have, but Darnold's a guy you really got to work with. Is this new coaching staff the answer? He doesn't really have the weapons around him either to correctly judge his first year or his future. And then the 3rd round pick was Nathan Shepard. Didn't get to see much of him. Herndon in the 4th. Looks like a solid pick. Nothing outstanding there. The rest of the guys, Nickerson, Fatukasi, Trenton Cannon actually got on the field, but a lot of this, nothing really stands out. A lot of guys that we really didn't see a lot of. Yeah, they have good potential, but it just really doesn't look like a great draft class, but it's really on Darnold. So we're going to have to see his future here and his potential. So we're going to have to wait and see. One of those. So they actually go down from a B+ to a C. And again, we have a lot of ties. Kind of got to try to figure out a tiebreaker here. Next was the Patriots. Really, other than Sony Michel, nothing really stands out. I love that Sony Michel draft pick, though. However, Isaiah Wynn in the first round, I think is a good pick, but, kind of incomplete grade. It's hard to grade that because he didn't play it down. I think he's going to be a good lineman. Duke Dawson, didn't get to see too much of him. That's really the explanation for a lot of these guys. Duke Dawson, I think, is a good player, but for a second-round guy, didn't really get to see a lot of him. Saw more of J.C. Jackson, who I liked a lot of Maryland. Ended up, not being in this Patriots draft class. Bentley was injured. Christian Sam didn't get to see much of him. A lot of these guys, you just didn't really get to see enough of them Nothing really stands out besides Sony Michel. But, you have to believe in the potential of the future. So guys like Duke Dawson can be part of that future. So we'll see. But I'm going to stick them with the C. They actually dropped down from a B to a C, unfortunately. But, it'd be interesting to do this video down the line further. That would make more sense, be more accurate. But this is always fun to do. So next up is the Rams. I gave the Rams a B+ originally, and then I dropped them down to a C+. This was actually a tough one, and I'll explain why here and why I had my original grade. Not a lot of the guys got on the field. I think the two teams in the Super Bowl really had the least amount of time played, rookie play time, honestly, which makes sense because they're in the Super Bowl. They're very good teams. They don't need their rookies to step up, so you can't really hurt them for that. Really, the reason I gave them a B+ originally is I liked some of their linebacker picks. Looking at Micah Kiser, who we didn't get to see, Oak Ronquo, I really liked that pick. Thought he fit that outside linebacker spot, but kind of a raw guy. So it's another kind of guy. I still believe in his potential. Kind of got to wait and see. John Kelly, I really liked that pick. I like Kelly out of Tennessee, but they just didn't want to use him. They had to bring in C.J. Anderson, so not really a good look there. They got a bunch of picks that really, are they going to be on this team competing, to play in the future? I see multiple guys that may not make this roster. But one thing I do like is the third and fourth, their first two picks really. Joseph Noteboom, who I liked, and Brian Allen. You can't really base off this year because they had a very good offensive line. But one thing I've been talking about is their offensive line isn't the youngest. They're going to need to look out for the future, and they did that here. So that's an upside there. So, back and forth, a lot of guys didn't get on the field. Got to credit John Franklin Myers, too, probably the best of the Rams draft class. Was a very good rotation player for them. Made some big plays, so that was impressive. It's kind of a wait and see for the first two picks, which I like. You get your lineman depth. It's a very, very important part of this draft class. But the rest of them, so it's kind of back and forth. The rest of them, you're not really sure about yet. Maybe not guys that will be on the team. So I have them with a C+, another team that drops down a little bit. Moving on, the Raiders, they actually went up. They went from a D+ to a C+. And probably most people would say the Raiders probably had one of the worst drafts at the time. I guess it's a little unfair, I guess, before we even see anything. Colton Miller, I'm not in love with that pick. He got the reps, he got the snaps, he's going to be good for the future. A solid run blocker, not so much in the pass blocking. Still don't like the pick, even if he turns out. P.J. Hall in the second round. I liked P.J. Hall. I thought he was a sleeper. Second round was a little early. Didn't really get to see much of him. And now maybe what I would have told you was the worst pick at the time in round 3 was Brandon Parker. I thought he was more of a 5th or 6th round guy. They get him in round 3, pick 1, and mind-blowing pick to everyone. I actually like Brandon Parker. Yeah, he needs to work on his pass blocking. He got his reps, his snaps. Loved him in the run blocking game. Was excellent, I thought. They need to get themselves a solid running back in there or a guy that can stay healthy and to go along with this run blocking because I think it could be good. Arden Key, I like that pick. Nick Nelson was hurt. Maurice Hurst, love that pick. So you have some reaches here. Some guys that maybe like P.J. Hall didn't get enough action for a rebuilding team, and they take them in the second round. You would expect more here. So they definitely get a bump up because guys like Brandon Parker turned out, Arden Key, Maurice Hurst. I like Maurice Hurst a lot. Love that pick at the time too. So I bumped him up to a C+. Not the best draft because some reaches, some guys that maybe misses, but then you may have some hits in the long run. So this could even go up as we go along here. So can't wait to see what happens there. And they're going to bring in they got 3 first-round picks. Can't wait to see that. Got to be exciting to be a Raiders fan, even though it wasn't the most exciting season. Moving on, the Vikings are next. Originally graded them a B+, and I ended up giving them a B-. I'm actually a Vikings fan myself. Nothing really wowed me about this draft class. I think if Mike Hughes would have stayed healthy, that would have made this much better. He was very solid before he got hurt, so hopefully he stays healthy. And people rip them for taking the corner. I think they actually could use Mike Hughes in there. Rhodes getting hurt. Wayne's going to be at the end of his contract, so they're going to need Hughes. Hopefully he stays healthy. He was a good player. Brian O'Neill is what keeps this going down from anything lower. He's actually their best offensive lineman. They picked him the second round. He's going to be their franchise right tackle, you would think. So that was a great pick. Jalen Holmes in round 4. This was one of the more one of the ones I was excited for, but didn't really get to see any of him. But there's an explanation. He played DN at Ohio State. I expected him to stay at DN, but Mike Zimmer switched him to defensive tackle. I would doubt that, but it's hard to doubt Mike Zimmer. He knows his stuff on the defensive side of the ball here. So it's kind of a wait and see one. I did really like that pick. Conklin, we kind of saw a little bit of him at the end. So far, it looks like a good draft, good solid draft. Some stuff you want to, wait and see on. But then where the Vikings usually hit is later in the draft. They usually are excellent. Rick Spielman's usually excellent hitting down here. Daniel Carlson, he looked pretty good for the Raiders, not for the Vikings. They wasted a 5th-round pick on that. Kobe Gossett, didn't get to see any of him. This is one of the picks I really liked was Ade Aruna, who got hurt. So this is an incomplete one. Freakish guy at the defensive end position, and those are the guys that the Vikings have turned out. So that's one I'm looking forward to. Hopefully he's okay. Devontae Downs in the 7th, didn't see any of him. So it's not really a class that wowed. A lot of wait and see. Brian O'Neill is what keeps us from going down to a C. So in the C range, C+. So there's the Vikings. We're moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another wait and see one, I think. B for now, but you look at Terrell Edmonds, I thought it was a reach, but still played pretty solid, kind of middle of the pack there, grade. James Washington, who I love James Washington, and we didn't get to see enough of him, so it's another incomplete one, but I'm trusting the process here. I think it'll turn out. It sounds like Antonio Brown is going to be gone, so this is looking like a very good pick. Mason Rudolph in the 3rd round, I like that pick. We didn't get to see him play because Big Ben's their quarterback. Dobbs was currently their backup. That could actually change. I think the development of Rudolph could actually bump him to 2nd string, possibly eventually be the starter. He's got a lot to work on, learning, going from Big 12 system to really the Oklahoma State system. People bash that a lot, going from that to the NFL. So I like the pick in the 3rd round. I like it. Okafor, we didn't really get to see too much of. Didn't like the Marcus Allen pick. Didn't get to see much of him. Jalen Samuels helped the team here and there. So a lot of incomplete, which brings it down from a B+ to a B, maybe even lower than that. But then guys like Jalen Samuels, who helped the team, Terrell Edmonds, and guys that have promise, and I believe in my original evaluation that we'll see guys like James Washington and maybe Mason Rudolph, maybe Okafor. So that keeps it at the B range. It's a hard one to grade. Moving on to the next team, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I gave an A- originally, and that's A- is very good, obviously. People don't know they're great, and they go down to a B. So really another incomplete one because Taven Bryan I still think is a very good defensive player, but he's behind very good Jaguars defensive players, so didn't get too much action, but you can't grade that too high. DJ Chark didn't do too much, but he's a hell of an athlete, just had to learn the offense. Not a whole lot of offense at LSU. Jags also need a quarterback, so you can't completely bash that pick, but you want to see more. Ronnie Harrison was a great pick. That would be an A+ pick in the 3rd round there in terms of value. Will Richardson should turn out. Tanner Lee, absolutely hated the pick then, hate it now, but it was a 6th-rounder. Leon Jacobs, athletic linebacker. He got some reps. He's another guy that was a raw player. As time goes on, you expect him to get on the field. He was already on the field at times. So I like that. Not a wow draft. Doesn't wow, kind of a wait and see. Keeps it at a B, Based on maybe the guy's play, you would think it'd be way lower, but you can't just base it off 1 year. A lot goes into this here. So there, the next one, and on to the next one, Cardinals. Cardinals at a B, kept it at a B. I don't see a reason to change this. Rosen's play didn't live up to expectations, but I believe in his future. But maybe the original grade for that goes down a little bit, maybe a little more than a little bit. Christian Kirk liked that pick. Mason Cole, wasn't really a flashy pick at the time. It didn't really stand out. Ended up being very solid for them, Mason Cole. So that was a great pick in the 3rd round. Chase Edmonds, same thing. Looked like a little bit of a reach. I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good as David Johnson, but at times he came in there and did things, pretty well where David Johnson wasn't able to do them. So not that he's as good. Chris Campbell, I liked the pick at the time. Didn't see much. Maybe will in the future. So it's not really a draft that really wows. And the Mason Cole one was pretty solid. Christian Kirk was solid. Chase Edmonds was solid. Other than that, It's a good B. It's a good B here. It doesn't really stand out too much, though. Moving on, another B, actually a bump up here. Seahawks were a C+, now they're a B. This was a tough one, too, because what they did in the first round, they took Penny. It wasn't really a good pick. I like Penny. I like his potential. If I don't like the pick, it doesn't mean I don't think the player can be good. Yeah, Penny was an excellent running back at San Diego State. He will be an excellent running back in the NFL, but Chris Carson's the guy there. I think just a little bit of a reach. And Rasheem Green didn't do too much, but, Frank Clark becoming a free agent, they would like to get him back, maybe a franchise tag. Green, I like his potential a lot. I still think it was a good pick, even though we didn't see a lot. So at this point, you're in the C range, maybe even a little lower because Rashad Penny didn't really so far work out, and it was a reach at the time on top of it. But then you got Will Dissly, looked very solid. You got Shaquem Griffin, looked very solid, got on the field. Trey Flowers in the 5th round, outstanding pick. Coming from Oklahoma State defense, you worry about that. Was outstanding for them. Made plays. Seen him play corner. Seen him play safety. He was out. When I say outstanding, I don't mean he's not Derwin James or Minkah Fitzpatrick or any of those corners up there. He was drafted in the 5th round. You had low expectations for this guy. So that's what I mean by that. You got maybe one of the best punters in the league in the 5th round. Jamarco Jones didn't get to play, but I like his potential, like his future, good depth. That's what they need. So really, and then you had a couple guys that didn't get on the field, questionable in 6th, 7th round, and then you had questionable in 1st and 3rd round. But in the middle there, it was so good. So that kind of offsets it. Like I said in the beginning, you're kind of down in that C- range, and everything else really bumps it up. So they go from a C+ to a B. Pretty impressive mid to late round range for the Seahawks. Love to see it. I love when teams hit in those rounds. Love to see it. Moving on is the Dolphins. They went from an A- to a B. So, yeah, unfortunately they go down, but B is still a good grade, obviously. Solid grade, especially at this point. Minkah was a solid pick in the 1st round. Gesicki, you would like to see more. I guess another one of those guys that was just drafted based off their athleticism. So another raw guy, give him time. Jerome Baker was excellent. 3rd round pick, great 3rd round pick. Durham Smythe expected a little more, didn't get it. Kalen Ballage expected a little more, didn't get it. But I don't think that's based off the player there. I think he can play. He had a very good run on the Minnesota Vikings, remember, towards the end of the season. Cornell Armstrong, really nothing going from him. Yeah, pretty much after that. Oh, except for Jason Sanders, excellent pick in the 7th round. We just talked about the Vikings wasting a 5th rounder on a guy they don't have right now. And the Dolphins go 7th round, 11th pick, 229 overall, and get their kicker. He was very solid. So credit to them there. It's just hit and miss all over, and really nothing is just wow besides Baker. Minkah Fitzpatrick will be an excellent player for a long time, but you expect him to go 11th overall. So hit and miss here, kind of kept it at a B. They're pretty much borderline B+, I guess you could say. Moving on, getting closer to that top. There's going to be a few A+ tie. I break them up into a tiebreaker and see who wins it. But first, Bengals went from an A to a B. I loved this draft class, and I still do. I still love the potential, but it dropped down. So A to B, Billy Price, only started 10 games, struggled when he was in. Jesse Bates, if you watch me during the draft process, I was talking about Jesse Bates before anybody knew who he was, and people were ripping me for talking about him 1st or 2nd round. Jesse Bates was pretty much one of my favorite guys, maybe my guy of the 2017 draft or 2018 draft. 2017 was actually Alvin Kamara for me. Jesse Bates, loved his play. I can't wait to see what this guy turns into. He's already a fantastic player. That's an A+ pick in the 22nd pick in the 2nd round. Hubbard, another great pick. We thought he may be a late 1st, early 2nd. I was comfortable with him in the early 2nd. Maybe it wasn't higher than some of those mocks that had him 1st, but they still got him. 3rd round, 13th pick, great pick. Malik Jefferson, loved the pick in the 3rd round, loved him. He has a lot of potential, didn't show it on the field this year, so maybe that's one of the things that bump it down. Mark Walton, liked the pick, didn't really show it too much in the 1st year, and then after that, we didn't get to really see too much. I liked the Andrew Brown pick, didn't get to see anything. Liked the Auden Tate pick, and didn't get to see anything there. So there's some hits. The big hits on Jesse Bates and Sam Hubbard is what keeps it in the B range, but the other ones, you can't say misses because it's way too early, but that kind of brings it down to a B. Moving on, next team. The Eagles, another very tough one to grade here. I gave them a B+ because you have to grade them based on what they had. You can't give the advantages to the teams with more picks. I don't think that's fair. Well, not that it's not fair. It'd be boring. It'd be the teams with the more picks would win every single time. So you have to value on what they have. They only had 5 picks. And the first 2 picks jump out. Dallas Goedert, like the pick. It's not an A-plus pick, but it's a great pick. So that keeps him in that A-minus range maybe. Avonte Maddox in the 4th round, that maybe bumps it up to an A at that point. Maddox was excellent for them, stepped up when he had to. Did get beat at times, but what do you expect there? Stepped up big time. And then here's why I had them at original grade, because I like those picks, but I really like this Josh Sweat pick. I actually had him graded as a late first round talent, if you remember, and I still do. He's a first round talent. He's a freak athlete, gets to the quarterback, has I don't want to say elite, but very good pass rush moves. Why he went 4th round is because he had injury history. And what happened? He got hurt. Unfortunately, some guys you can say, and in this case you can say, most likely, and I hate saying it, most likely he may continue to get hurt. It was worth the shot here, though. He is a first-round talent, 2nd round at the latest. So it is tough I can't label that one an F or anything like that, because even though you think he's going to keep getting hurt, because he's a talent. It was worth the risk in the 4th round. I thought somebody would risk him in the 2nd, but then they get a backup lineman in the 6th. The hit and miss here, and then kind of incomplete on Josh Sweat. But the first two picks and Josh Sweat having the talent, I think, really keeps this one alive. And I gave it. This is the worst B+ one I graded, if that makes any sense. A B+, great grade, but out of the B+, this was the worst one I did because it's a tough one to grade. Next one's the Falcons. I gave them a B+, and I think a very solid B+ one here. We'll go over the picks. Calvin Ridley, I think that's where he should have went. Had a very solid rookie season with the touchdowns. Impressed more earlier than at the end, so I wouldn't really give it an A+ pick on that. Isaiah Oliver, you would like to see more, but I like his potential. I like Oliver a lot. Like that pick. He got late first round talk. So that one makes sense to me. That pick made sense to me, and I like the future there. Sinan, too. We didn't get to see much of him, but I like that guy's potential. The D-tackle from South Florida, like it. Ito Smith looks solid as the 3rd running back. That's pretty good production for a 3rd running back. So a guy that was pretty solid. Nothing stands out about this draft, but guys that were solid and have a lot of potential. Russell Gage is kind of a potential guy. So yeah, it's a good draft. That's what it is. It's a good draft. Nothing wows. We're gonna have to wait and see about some potential. So I gave it a B+. And when I say nothing wows, I don't mean a player isn't like Calvin really was fantastic for his rookie season. That's not really not what I mean. Nothing stands out with like absolute steal. That's what I mean by that. Just to make sure we're all on the same page here. The Bucs were next, had it an A, dropped it to a B+. Another draft class where we have to kind of wait and see. Now, people may be mad at me because a lot of these guys didn't really show out right away, so B+ is too high. Again, 1 year is not the end result. This is a draft class I have trust in. First pick, Vita Vea. Solid. Wasn't bad, but didn't live up to the 12th pick in 1 year. They get Todd Bowles in there. They're switching the defense. He fits that way better. Way better. This guy's going to be up. He's going to be a player. I promise you he's going to be a player. Is he going to be elite? I can't tell you that. But now the craziest pick of the whole, or how it turned out in the whole draft, Ronald Jones, 2nd round, pick 6. Very good talent. Ronald Jones can play. Apparently he couldn't learn the playbook. How he didn't get on the field still when they needed a running back, still beyond me. New coaching staff. Bruce Arians will figure this guy out. I am confident in Ronald Jones. Maybe not as confident as Vita Vea because Ronald Jones can't really learn the playbook, but I'm confident in Ronald Jones. I'm excited to see him going forward. Yeah, they may need to get a running back so to be on the safe side and get a guy that can be an every down guy, but I like Ronald Jones' talent. I don't care what they said over there. I can't give this a good grade because, didn't really play. Kind of incomplete here. But the next 2 picks I liked a lot. MJ Stewart, Carlton Davis. I like the Carlton Davis more at the time. I like it more now, but they both can play. They needed corners for the future, and they got them here. Another one that stands out to me is Jordan Whitehead. I think that's a very good pick in the 4th round. Jack Sitchy got hurt, I believe, and I kind of like that pick in the 6th round. So yeah, there's some ones here that are incomplete, and there's some ones that I really like. So that keeps them at a B+. Well, not keeps him. I had him in an A, dropped him to a B+. Dropped him since there's a little bit of an incomplete grading going on here, but B+. I like the future of that draft class. Next one's the Niners. Went from a C to a B+. Like to see it. Like to see the improvement here based off my original thoughts. Let's talk about the Niners draft class. McGlinchey, not really a wow pick, but very, very solid. Going to play for them for a long time. That's what I think about this draft class. I think the bunch of guys are going to play for them for a long time. And I'm going to tell you why. This is a very interesting one I like to talk about, because I'm going to tell you exactly why I gave them a C. Mike McGlinchey, wasn't in love with the pick, but liked it. I like Dante Pettis. I really like Fred Warner, and I do like it now. Obviously, that's the best one. But this is what I didn't like. The least of it was Tavarius Moore, really, but I'll mention Tavarius Moore here. I thought it was a little early. I think people started to overreact on him, but he was very solid this year. Got his reps. I think it's got to be on the team for a long time. But finally, let me get into why I really gave it a C. Kentavious Street, Marcel Harris, Richie James. Three guys at the time were known as injury guys. Kentavious Street, we knew he wouldn't play. Honestly thought he was probably a fourth rounder if he was healthy. We knew he was hurt there, so I thought that was a reach. Three guys that really, they're high risks because they're injury. So that's why I gave it a C. I still don't get the logic behind drafting it, but Kentavious Street's incomplete draft grade, but I still think it was early. Marcel Harris ended up being solid, but on the field, very solid. I knew he can play. It's just taking multiple of those guys. And Richie James was able to get on the field there. Julian Taylor could be a rotation guy. Tavarius Moore, like I mentioned, played very well. So I was a little worried about these. It still has to stick in your mind that can these guys get hurt. I still don't get the logic taking three of those guys. But McGlinchey, Pettis, Fred Warner are going to be big-time players for them for a long time. Fred Warner was their best pick, and I said it was their best pick at the time. I liked him a lot. Tavarius Moore, stepped up. Can't wait to see what Kentavious Street has. So a big upgrade from C to B+ for the Niners. Props to them there. The Packers, we're getting to the A range. Packers got an A-, and I kept them at an A- here. I don't a lot of picks, and they're going to have a lot more this year, so that's exciting if you're a Packers fan. I didn't really see a reason to change it. You start at the top. I actually really thought about dropping this down. So we won't start at the top here. Jamon Moore, I like Jamon Moore a lot. Didn't really get to see much of him. Cole Madison I thought was a little reach. J.K. Scott was a good pick. Valdez Scantling and Equinemius St. Brown. Solid picks there. You could get better at receiver, but very solid picks. And then after that, really not much going with it when they had multiple picks. So you're kind of, it's a good draft, but it's not in that A range. But then you go back to the top. The top three picks is what keeps us in that A range. Alexander and Jackson, man, that's a good draft. That's for what they needed at corner. That's going to be the future, not just of the Packers. That might be the future duo. Love that. And Oren Burks got in the field. He was a very solid guy, a high motor guy, a guy that I liked. So those three guys bump it from maybe in that B range to back to that A-. And I do like, I want to see Jamon Moore more. I do like those other receivers, though, but you can see that they're going receiver crazy, and they may even need another one. With some complaints all year how they didn't have a guy. Maybe a guy develops early, so we'll see. They stay at an A-. I don't see a reason to change them. I'm excited about the future of that corner duo in Oren Burks, really. Next is going to be the Texans, a team that didn't really have an early pick, but you got to value them and grade them on what they have. I think it's a fair way to do it. So the Texans, really the one that stands out is that they stole Justin Reed in the third round. I had a late first-round grade on him. They get him in the third round, so love that pick at the time. Martinez Rankin, maybe didn't play the best, but he got the reps, got the snaps. Jordan Akins, you would like to maybe would like to see a little more. Kiki Kute, great rookie season for a fourth-round pick. Ejiofor is the one that, I expected to see a little more, but he was a sixth-round pick. And then Jordan Thomas looks like a steal. Looks like Deshaun Watson likes him in the sixth round. And then a couple other guys that could be rotation guys. So really a very good draft here. Justin Reed's a steal, I think. I wouldn't say Kute's a steal, actually. I'd just say it's a solid pick there. Jordan Thomas looks like somewhat of a steal. So very good draft here. A- is where I kept them at. And that's kind of borderline A-, A there. On to the next one. We're getting closer to the top. Panthers, I gave an A minus after I gave them an A in the original grade. So still a very good grade, but you may ask, why did you drop them down? And we'll take a look at it now. Really, it's a good draft, obviously, because I have him in that A range. DJ Moore, like the pick. Dante Jackson ends up being an A-plus pick, second round, 23 overall. But I like those picks at the time. Nothing changed from my original thoughts on DJ Moore and Dante Jackson. Nothing really changed for me. Ian Thomas looks solid. What changed, what bumped it down just a little bit, I thought Rashawn Golden, who I still believe in his potential, I thought he would show us a little more, but I can't bump him down too much because I still believe in his potential. I still think that's a good pick. Marquise Haynes, I love that pick. Didn't really get to see anything of him there. The couple linebackers they picked, I really liked Andre Smith pick from North Carolina. I like Kendrick Norton. Didn't really get to see much there. So some of that incomplete grading going on here, guys I still believe in. But then I have some really good picks like Dante Jackson there. What keeps it in that A range. So, back and forth there. But I keep it in the A range, but gave it an A minus. So a little bit of a bump down. On to the next one. We got the Bills. I gave it an A minus originally, and I gave it an A minus again. One of my favorite picks in the first round was Tremaine Edmonds, where we're skipping Josh Allen. Josh Allen played very solid towards the end of the season. I think he looks promising. Another one of those players at the quarterback position that looked kind of raw. Looks like it's going to take some time to get him where he's at, and he's already starting to get there, I think. Tremaine Edmonds, love that pick. It's an A-plus pick there. He was a top 5 player of mine. Another raw player. People are like, he may not show it right away. I think he did. Harrison Phillips, kind of an incomplete one. I think he's solid. Teron Johnson, another incomplete one. He got hurt. I think that's a solid pick in the 4th round. Saran Neal, I liked that pick a lot at the time, and he got on the field. Wyatt Teller, loved the pick at the time. Love it now. So there's a lot to love about this class, and then some spots we kind of got to wait and see. So it's at an A minus for me right here. Next team is going to be the Broncos. Had an A, dropped it down to an A minus. So they do get a bump down there, a little drop down. And I'll explain why here. A lot of the same reasons for the Bills here. A lot of picks that I love. A lot of picks that maybe kind of got to wait and see. Don't really love too much. Bradley Chubb, love it. Cortland Sutton, love it. Royce Freeman, still can be a solid running back. It's just that the other guy's better. Phillip Lindsay, who they got undrafted. So not the greatest pick, but I still think Freeman's solid. Isaac Yiadom, I think that's a very solid pick. They need corners. He's able to play in his rookie season. Deshaun Hamilton stood out. And then you got a few late round picks that are questionable, maybe guys that won't be on the team in the future. But so there's ones that you really love that have that A-plus potential, and then there's other ones that kind of bring it down, and that is why I have it at an A minus. But overall, very good haul and very good draft for the Denver Broncos. A lot of future there. Next one, and we're starting to get in that A range here, that A to A plus. The Chargers, original grade A, and they're finishing at an A. I don't see a reason to change it, is really what it is. Derwin James, an A-plus pick. Nwosu, love the pick. Good rotation guy this year. Didn't get to see a whole lot of him. Justin Jones, same explanation for Nwosu. Good pick in the 3rd round. I actually thought it was a little bit of a reach, honestly, at the time. He ended up being a good rotation guy. Kaiser White, a player that I liked. High motor guy, can play in the box, can play linebacker. That originally was a DB, but he got hurt, incomplete there. I think he'll be a good player. And in the bottom of the draft, a couple picks that aren't too great, but then you have Justin Jackson to bring it back up. Great pick in the 7th round. Love the pick at the time, love it now. Really contributed when he needed to. Very solid running back. So that makes it an A. There's a couple wows in here, a couple solids, and then a couple, incomplete or didn't see much of. So that keeps it an A. Very good draft for the Chargers. What are we on to? Our 23rd team we're doing here. The Redskins stay at an A. Stay at an A. Had them at an A, then they're staying at an A. Take a look at their draft. Deron Payne ended up being a little better than I expected in year 1. Stops the run at a high level. That's what they needed. Darius Guice, incomplete, but at the same time, we know what Darius Guice can do when he's healthy. One of the best picks of the drafts at round 2, pick 27, and I sticking with it as long as he doesn't get hurt. I think he's going to be a big-time running back for them for a long time. So I trust my pretty much everybody's original judgment on Darius Guice. Jerome Christian. A lot of these guys were hurt here. Guice, Christian, Apke, Sean Deion Hamilton was an injury guy. He was able to get on the field and play solid. Trey Quinn was another hurt guy. So a lot of incomplete here. So you may ask, why are they at an A? Well, I like the Deron Payne one. I don't care about Darius Geis. I like the pick, love the pick. Apke I didn't like at the time. Tim Settle was a great pick in the 5th round. People were talking about him 2nd round. They needed run-stopping help. They get Deron Payne, Tim Settle. Makes a lot of sense. Sean Deion Hamilton, love the pick in the 6th round. Greg Stroman, I talked about him as a sleeper during the draft. They get him in the 7th round. He played, that's an A-plus pick in round 7. He's not an A-plus player. Hopefully everyone's not confused by that. But A-plus pick with the value of the 7th round, pick 23. So a lot of promising guys here, and I like this draft. The guys that were hurt, I think, if healthy, will turn out. Still, the one I was confused about was Troy Apke. Didn't have the best tape. Was just very fast, very athletic. But we'll see. A lot of chances there for Washington's future. Like that draft a lot. Moving on. Ravens. I gave them a B originally, and they get bumped up to an A. Love to see it. What do we got for the Ravens? What's keeping this? There's one thing that's keeping this from an A+, and it's really Hayden Hurst. I hated the pick at the time. Hate it now. He can be good. He can be a solid blocker, so I'm not doubting him. Just the value of that pick. Lamar Jackson was a great pick. The last pick in the 1st round. Orlando Brown, 3rd round, was an excellent pick. Great pick. Started for them. Mark Andrews, 3rd round, was an excellent pick. He played a lot for them. Made some plays. Lamar Jackson seems to like him. 4th round, Anthony Averett. I think a very good pick. There was talk about him going 2nd or 3rd round. I think a very good pick. We didn't get to see a lot of him. We seen glimpses, and he's seen solid. We didn't see a lot of him because the Ravens probably have the best cornerback depth in football. So I still view that as a very solid pick. Kenny Young in the 4th round that's an A+ pick right there. Very solid. Then we have some guys that, kind of incomplete grades, but Deshaun Elliott, I still love that pick. He got hurt, and they also have great DB depth, so we didn't get to see a whole bunch of him, so that's fair. I like this draft. Good haul. What's keeping it from an A+ is really Hayden Hurst, but there's some steals in there, so they go from a B to an A. Very impressive. Moving on to the next team, it's the Tennessee Titans. I had them an A+ originally, and I moved them down a little bit to an A. Still love this draft. I usually don't like the ones that, only 4 draft picks. You trade away some draft picks to do this here. I usually don't like that, but I love this draft because Rashaan Evans, and I still love it, Rashaan Evans and Harold Landry, 2 guys in my top 12 in the big board. They got both of them in 2 rounds. That's A+, all over the place. Great rookie seasons for them. They can do more. They can grow and do better. They didn't play right away either, and they still did what they did. Cruikshank in the 5th round. I viewed him as a 3rd round guy. Still really like the pick. He's a potential guy. They were kind of working him in that corner at first, which I didn't understand. And they moved him back to safety. Was a backup safety in a very solid DB group. So I like that guy's future. There for the Titans. Think he fits right in. Still like the pick. So really what moved it down was, I guess, Cruikshank not playing a little bit. That kind of slightly moves down. And Luke Falk, I thought was a great pick. And he didn't make the team. I thought for 6th round, why not? And they need a solid backup quarterback, but he didn't make the team. So that moves it down a little bit. But Rashaan Evans, Harold Landry, 2 guys that were in my top 12, my big board, and I still trust that. Very solid. Harold Landry, maybe the pick of the draft, I think, in the 2nd round. Outstanding. I think he's got a future at that outside linebacker spot for them. I really like when he puts a hand in the dirt, though, which, that's what I really liked about him. He can play both 3-4, 4-3. So Titans get an A. Moving on, the Cowboys. We're in that A+ range. So the last place A+ team, unfortunately, if you're a Cowboys fan. But still, it's an A+. It's still a very good draft, and I think very highly of it. So let's go over this very good draft, this A+ draft here. First, you got Leighton Vander Esch, who had an A+ season. You do still worry about the injury that was concerned at the time, but maybe not nearly as much because he played the whole season with a high motor. Nastiness. Gotta love it. Connor Williams, great pick. Still value that pick. Didn't really stay on the field. He got his reps, definitely, but didn't start all the time. Just kind of went in when it was injuries, but you kind of expect that because they have a very good offensive line. Gallup was a great pick in the 3rd round. Loved the pick at the time. Maybe my favorite one at the time in terms of value was Dorrance Armstrong. Didn't get to see too much. He kind of rotated in. Played solid when he did. I like his potential a lot. I value Dorrance Armstrong in the 2nd round. I gave him the 4th round. So didn't get to see too much, but I still value that. Dalton Schultz was a solid 4th round pick. Mike White could be a solid backup. Chris Covington liked that pick. Didn't get to see much of him. Cedric Wilson liked that pick. Didn't get to see much of him. Bo Scarborough didn't make the team. So, yeah, this is kind of borderline A plus here. But I think they got some steals. I believe in the potential of this draft class. Moving on. Next A plus team was the Chiefs. Didn't have too much to work with here in terms of early picks. But, man, I love this draft class. Breeland Speaks in the second round. That's going to be a player for them for a long time. Stepped up for them when they needed him to. Derek Nottie stepped up big time when they needed him to. We've seen him in the playoffs as a third-round pick. Dorian O'Daniel stepped in. You know, they need future linebackers. I was very high on Dorian O'Daniel. I like his potential. Armani Watts was hurt. I like his potential. Like that pick at the time. Tremon Smith, like his potential. He was their kick returner. He can play corner for them. A guy that had to adjust because he used to play quarterback. So he's got to learn the position still. Love that pick. This is really just a very good draft class because they didn't have much to work with, and they got guys that are sticking with the team for a long time. Really all hits here. So they get an A+. They go from A to an A+. Next team, Chicago Bears. They go from A to an A+. Very solid draft class. And this is the point. This point on, these teams, except for the top two, what do we got? We got the Bears right now. And then we have two more teams that I think are pretty much tied with the Bears, a tied A+. Very hard to split them up. I have my reasons, though, and the top two teams are in their own category. Very hard to split up. But the Bears, you look at their top three picks. Roquan Smith played at a freakishly high level. James Daniels stepped in when Kyle Long got hurt. He played. I thought he should have been a first-rounder. Out of those center/guards, I thought he was the best one. I know you got to look for scheme fit. But he filled in. They were almost better when Daniels was in. I think Kyle Long coming off the injury, throw him back in there. I don't know if that was a good idea. James Daniels, the future. Anthony Miller, another very solid pick, had, 7 touchdowns? So that looks like A+. And then Igabunaway, who I like, didn't really get to see much of him. Kylie Fitz didn't get to see much of him. But Bilal Nichols, he rotated in and looked very promising. Javon Wims, too, looked very promising in preseason and had to rotate in. And I think he's going to stick to the team there. He's going to be staying in the roster spot. So what makes this an A+ is those first 3 picks, Roquan, James Daniels, Anthony Miller. Good draft for the Bears. They did trade away a little bit, though, too. So we'll see. But they get an A+. So I guess trading away a little bit of future is kind of what separates these other teams that I said were basically ties. Next would be the Lions. They get a big bump up, go from a B to an A+. I love this draft class here. The Ragnow one, don't love it. Doesn't really wow, but it's a great draft pick because he's going to be an offensive lineman for them for a long time. Got his snaps. Kerryon Johnson, an A+ pick. Thought he was a late first-round player. Get him in the second round. That's their future running back. Tracy Walker was a great pick in the third round. That's their future safety. Deshaun Hand was one of the steals of the draft. A++ there. Played at a high level in his rookie season. He was one of my sleepers of the draft too, so I thought very highly of him at the time. Tyrell Crosby, when he needs to fill in, he's good to go. I think he's a future starter for the line. Love that pick at the time. So it's really just a bunch of hits here for the Lions. So they go from a B to an A+. A lot of guys that will really help their future. Really those 3 picks in a row, Kerryon Johnson, Tracy Walker, and Deshaun Hand, the value they got with those picks with the second, third, and fourth round is just outstanding. So they get an A+ here in this regrade. Moving on. The Giants are next. A+. I had them at an A+, and I kept them at A+. No reason to change it here. They didn't have a ton of picks, but they made the most out of them here. Saquon Barkley, obviously a big-time player. You expect him to make that pick there. Will Hernandez was getting talked to the late first round. They get him in the second round. Lorenzo Carter, at the time, was one of my favorite picks in the draft. It still is. He didn't get nearly as many snaps as he should have, and he produced in those snaps. And he was another one of those raw players, athletic guys. We got to work with this guy, and he already got a good amount of sacks from the snaps he had. Lorenzo Carter is going to be a great pass rusher for them for a long time. B.J. Hill was outstanding. A guy that got early second round talk. They get him early third round. I still like the Laletta pick, even though the off the field issues or whatever. I think he's a solid backup quarterback. R.J. Magatosh, solid rotation guy, was a good pick in the 5th round. But you look at the pick from Barkley, Hernandez, Carter, B.J. Hill, all A+ right there. Combine them, A+. So great value there. They get an A+. They stay put. So the top 2 teams, if you know your stuff at home and you've been watching this whole video, you know that the final 2 teams are the Colts and the Browns. I sat here when I made these graphics or what order to put them in, because obviously they have the same graphic. They're A pluses, but they had different original grades, or they changed their original grades. I sat here trying to order them correctly. Which one do I give the edge to? I sat here for a while because I'm trying to do this right. It was hard. So this is basically a tie for the number one spot. Let's go to who got second place, but also really their first place because they got an A plus like these other teams, is the Cleveland Browns. They went from a B to an A plus, and let's go over that draft. Let's go over it. They get Baker, best quarterback. The draft was my number one quarterback, and he stays the number one quarterback. You expect him to make that type of pick, though, at top. Denzel Ward ended up being a genius pick at 4 when no one thought so. Austin Corbett got some playing time, but it's not a starter, which he has a potential. He has the potential. He'll be the starter in the future, but second round, pick 1 for a team that was still in rebuilding mode. Now they're starting to get past that. You expect him to play a little more. Nick Chubb ended up being a very solid pick. Chad Thomas, you want to see more of him. Antonio Callaway was an outstanding pick. Jernard Avery, which was one of my favorite picks at the time, was a great pick. Damian Ratley, I think, has potential. Didn't get to see enough of him, though. But you get Baker, you get Denzel Ward, you get Nick Chubb, you get Antonio Callaway, you get Jernard Avery, guys that are instant plug-and-play guys for them and already, show they can play at a pretty solid level and can be a part of this team for a long time, as long as they stay, don't get in trouble off the field. I'm talking about Antonio Callaway. So great draft for them. A++. They get second place, and I will tell you what the difference was after we go through the Colts here. The Colts win the draft for me. I mean, really, you can argue that all these A+ teams win the draft, but the Colts went from an A-, so I did think highly of them before, A-, which I think somebody told me then when I just did my first round regrade that I bashed the Colts grade. I don't know where they came up with that. I had an A-. I went back and looked at the old video. I gave him an A-, and now I gave him an A+. So I guess I wasn't right, but I was pretty close. A+, Quentin Nelson was A+ pick. They traded back 3 spots, got picks, got future, still got their guy that went from 32 in blocking to first. Darius Leonard, I wasn't in love with this pick at the time because you're talking about fourth pick in the second round. It's basically almost a first rounder. Darius Leonard, I thought was the guy you need to work with. This guy was just unreal. A++++ pick, maybe the pick of the draft. Braden Smith, second round. Great pick. Contributed right away. Played on the offensive line. Him and Quentin Nelson helped that team go to the top. Komoko Toure, loved the pick at the time. Guy with a lot of potential. Guy you got to work with. He got on the field and produced some pass rush, some pressure, I should say. I'm surprised why they didn't use him more in the postseason. I think he can play. Tyquan Lewis was a great pick. You saw at the end of the season what he was starting to do, and he played a lot of interior at Ohio State, and they moved him kind of outside, so impressive what he was able to do. Hines was a 4th-round pick, a definite weapon. Hard to game plan against with all these running backs because guys like Hines that can go downfield and catch the ball. Great pick in the 4th round. Fontaine was probably my least favorite pick at the time. Still not one that's really popping out. Jordan Wilkins, add to that running back group. He can play for a 5th-round pick. Deion Kane was one of my favorite picks. Deion Kane can play. We didn't get to see him yet because he got hurt. I would look out for him in the future if he stays healthy. I know Deion Kane can play. I still really like that pick. So really, just overall, great pick. Steal with Darius Leonard. A lot of guys, again, like the Browns, plug and play, going to be on the team for a long time, going to, make an impact for them right away. The difference, I had to dig deep and find the difference. Well, you could argue that Darius Leonard was maybe the steal of the draft. That could be one. And then number 2 was they both took offensive linemen around the same spot in the second round, and the Browns was Austin Corbett, who I still think highly of him. I think he'll be a future starter, but you expect the first pick, the second round, to maybe play more. And then Braden Smith was the Colts, and he started for them, and helped that offensive line get better. So that's that. I guess that's the difference. Very good draft class. I'm excited to see a lot of these guys, the ones we didn't get to play and didn't get to see. I'm excited to see their potential because I believe in a lot of these guys, as you can tell from this video. I'm excited for this 2019 draft class. We're going to start talking more and more about that. Got new mock drafts up all the time, and we're going to talk about free agency and the draft as we get closer here. It's an exciting time. The draft's my favorite time of year. Very exciting. We also have in-season predictions. We got Super Bowl predictions, all kinds of fun stuff. So I hope you guys subscribe, stick with us, check all that out. We have a new subscriber goal. Thanks to all your guys' support, we got to our 10K, and we're getting well above it. 20K is our subscriber goal, so if you can help us get there, we much appreciate it. Anybody new, please click that subscribe button, click that like button. Much, much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one. This was a long one. I'm tired of talking. Check out our Twitter. I can talk on there without actually talking. Lots of good stuff there. Link in the description for that. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone's support. Goodbye.